Hey, listen.
Someday,
I'm not gonna.
we're not gonna be able to do that. You're here?
I see.
Oh, okay. Hey, how are you? It's nice to see you.
Oh, you don't need one.
Yeah, good. Yes, too. Okay, I mean, great, y'all, I believe. Nice to see you. Yeah. Let me just.
We're working on it.
Yeah, that's great. Graduates, we can't do some stuff right away.
Yes, Councilwoman Garden, we are promoting you to panelist and, okay, we're good. So we had a couple. All right, I remember to actually share the screen this time, so people online can see what we're doing. Okay.
Welcome, everyone. Call this meeting to order. And before we get started, if we could just have a moment of silence. Great. So pretty packed agenda. So only thing I wanted to add is after resiliency updates, I want to give a brief update on some initiatives that we are working on with staff and other municipalities in the county and the COG, just high level. But why don't we go ahead and get started with Katie? You take the floor on giving us the update on your update.
Mayor Coswell. And hi, everyone. Well, packed house today. Lovely to see everyone's smiling faces. I do have news myself. I'm actually leaving the city. I'm moving to Denver to be closer to my family. So this will be my last meeting. So very bittersweet for me. But I wanted to make sure I left y'all in really good hands. And I am. And I know Mayor Cogswell is certainly trying to lead the way to make sure that everyone can continue the momentum that we've started. So every year, I give you a little update on where we are with the climate action plan implementation. So if you remember, this is a 5-year plan. We passed it in May of 2021. So the goal is to have it fully implemented by the end of 2026. That's coming fast. So you'll see in this progress report that there's still some things that need some attention that are waiting on other things. So there's quite a few elements that are, pending the zoning code rewrite, which I know the mayor will give us an update on. And there's a couple items in here that do need a little more attention moving forward. So I wanted to draw your attention to that, but also wanted to celebrate the progress. See, this is a pretty exciting thing for me, our new compost worm sticker designed by children for children. So we can engage youth in composting in a more fun way. They, when they first saw the sticker, they said, Katie, that needs a hair and a top hat. And I said, okay, I will let the designer know. So know your audience. So one of the big things we've really been focusing on this past year is community outreach and trying to target the youth population. So we've gone to over 39 events. A couple of those we've hosted ourselves, but we've worked really hard partnering with community members to leverage our limited resources. So I'm really proud that we've reached over 10,000 residents this year, and a lot of those have been youth. So thank you all who have been a part of that. I think it's a huge accomplishment. I'm not going to run through all of this, but one of our really big focuses in 2024 was to better engage with our libraries to reach our youth better. And yesterday, we actually had a train the trainer session at the libraries. A few of you were there, where we had 30 librarians from all over the county who came to learn about how to host their own compost workshop so that they can do it themselves. We've given them all the resources, all the knowledge to be able to do it. And we've said, here, we can give you free kitchen caddies to give away. Here's some stickers. And now we have the libraries that are going to start adding it to their programming, which is really neat. And hopefully just the beginning for the city. the libraries can add so much to their programming, resilience, you name it. They're gonna do some pollinator stuff for us too. So starting with composting, but please lean on them. They're such a great resource and I'm really glad to have made that connection before moving away. So we had 3 pumpkin smash events, lots of workshops, lots of communication campaigns, lots of volunteers. So the big wins in the transportation category were we had 28 new charging ports installed this year. So we talked about these a lot the last few years, got them permitted. Danny's team at Dominion helped us make it happen. We expanded it to a 4th parking garage, so they're now at the tech center too. So we doubled capacity at every garage. So at the Gilead, for example, we had 4, now we have 8 because they're dual ports. They're all smart systems, so we are collecting a little bit of revenue to help cover that and make it a sustainable program. We were also awarded $195,000 in the Energy Efficiency Conservation Grant, and are hoping to start that real soon. Matt Altop is going to lead the fleet transition plan. So really excited for him to take the reins on that. He's going to be great. And we also have funding for our first EV pickup truck. So hopefully that funding comes through. It's coming from the Department of Energy. And then the BCD COG put in an application for the Charging, Fueling, and Infrastructure Grant. Catherine led the lead over there with, Kyle really did all the work, but Catherine supervises. So the region won over $6 million to put in EV charging stations, especially in disadvantaged communities where we know private investment will not be investing there. The city really needs to take over in those places. So that's really exciting. I believe the city has about 20 ports in that application. And we've tentatively selected the sites, but that we can, adjust those as we move forward and need to. So big wins in transportation, carbon sink. So we created a new pollinator guide. As you know, we got our pollinator signs in and we're going to pilot No Mow March. Taylor and Jamie at Keep Charleston Beautiful are going to take over all the pollinator stuff for me. So stay tuned. They're going to have some events and make sure we get those signs in our city parks where we have pollinator gardens and help make people more aware of the benefits of pollinators. Because without them, we don't eat. Another big win, partnership with the Charleston Climate Coalition. They were recently awarded 40 grand to help bring back our Charleston Rainproof program. So they are going to focus on rain gardens in disadvantaged communities. They're going to specifically look at the east side and the eco corridor and help us create that model to make the program more sustainable. And they're doing everything from, finding people to design, to install, and even offering gift cards for maintenance, to Lowe's after the fact, because we know folks sometimes need a little more help than just half the funding for a project. Some people don't have time to go to a training. Some people are elderly, can't dig with, can't be out in the garden digging. So how do we help them? So that's the goal of this grant. And I think it will be super successful. They're going to partner with Clemson Extension and it's going to be awesome. And then, as we know, the Mulberry Food Forest opened this year, which is pretty fun. A huge partnership with the city and the Charleston Parks Conservancy. If you haven't been over there, check it out. Buildings. So the Southeastern Energy Efficiency Alliance won a huge DOE grant to work on our building codes. It's a lot of technical assistance. The city will be involved at some point. We submitted a letter of support to be part of it. So this is a huge, one of the best ways we can make an impact is policy, right? Right now, we are on the 2009 Energy Code, which is actually the same as the 2007 Energy Code. What year is it? So we need to fix that. The sooner we fix that, the more we'll save. So they're also going to work on creating workforce training, energy efficiency, you name it. And that's also a way they're going to work with our building inspections team and Ken Granada to try to get us more staff for energy compliance. One of our challenges is, it's hard to go into new construction and actually certify that they're meeting the 2007 Energy Code because we don't have a lot of compliance staff. So that is a capacity challenge that this grant can help us with too. And I know Ken is very excited about it. And then we all know the South Carolina Office of Resilience was awarded the Solar for All grant. So this is also going to focus on disadvantaged communities, community solar. I know Danny will be a big part of this. but it also has a piece for nonprofits and local government. So it could help us get solar on fire stations, on city buildings, on community centers, resilience hubs, things like that. So lots of potential in this grant funding. The waste, we were again awarded the $15,000 Department of Environmental Services grant, which used to be DHEC. We get that every year. They're so great at giving us funding to support our programs to increase recycling and composting. So we've focused it all on youth-centered marketing and materials, and that's where we got the stickers. They designed it for us, and I was all grant funded to buy those, and really excited to give those away at some upcoming youth composting workshops at the libraries. This year, our compost program crushed it. We crushed our goal of 200 tons. We got to 228. So we have a goal next year of 250 tons. And we're up to 3,000 households composting, which is really neat to see. And pumpkins were really fun this year. People enjoyed that. So that's sort of the major update in the climate action plan. I wanted to just quickly go into the fact that, just remind you that there's some items in the CAP that, you know, we haven't started yet for various reasons. We are a little behind schedule. Some of the things that are left will take time. So for example, a facilities assessment to assess whether we can put renewable energy on a city facility. That's something that's can't just be done in a couple of months. That is part of the Solar for All grant, but we know those grants take over a year usually to negotiate with the federal government. You know, there's some limbo happening there. So it's a really tough spot. So I feel that needs some attention right away, and maybe just a hard look at the items that we haven't had the chance to do. Now, the climate action plan is set to be implemented by the end of 2026. That means we also need to start planning for our next 5-year. What are we going to do next? And perhaps we take some of this, maybe there's some things that, you know, we can't do for various reasons and incorporate it into the next cycle. So we need to start thinking about revising the climate action plan for the next 5 years. I'm not saying we need to spend $100 grand on a consultant. Please don't do that. That's why we did it internally. There's so many things that we can figure out internally to do that, but we do still need a guiding North Star that is blessed by City Council. So very exciting. The compost program finally expanded to North Charleston. Welcome to North Charleston. Yay. They've been our missing cog, and the College of Charleston is joining too. So very excited. We're up to 8 partners strong on this regional collaboration. So we have 3 new drop sites. The North Charleston one opens today. We've got a big workshop in Park Circle tonight. And then we are actually opening a new drop site in Eastside. I just got Lori and Clark to OK Martin Park. So here we go, Eastside. I'm very excited to get it started there. And one of the Charleston is still being determined. So Matt Altop and Public Works are going to take over the compost program when I take off. So the whole idea was it really should be in Public Works, but Public Works didn't have the capacity to create the program, do the testing, do the marketing. So that's where the sustainability program can come in and say, okay, I'll find the grant, I'll create everything. But now that it's all created, it's at a perfect position for Matt and his Public Works team to take it over. So he's going to do that. He does not have capacity to do outreach. So, you know, my department will still need to do that. And I know Allie, the new sustainability coordinator of Charleston County in the back here, if you haven't met her, please say hi. She is also going to take over a lot of the compost outreach, and I have taught her everything I know. So thank you to Allie. So you can see we're up to 23 drop sites, which is pretty cool. So there'll be 2 more stars added to this really soon. So we're at like a really good place where it's a regional program where it works. It serves everyone. Yes, we can always add more, and I hope so in the future, but we're at a good spot with this right now to keep it consistent. So the recent grant awards, I went over these pretty much in the updates, so I don't really need to go over them again. I was gonna just look through the, let me see. This just really fast. So you can see where these relate to the actions. So here that building code one helps with a couple different actions.
we know that BCG COG won the CPRG grant, so they're actually working on a regional climate action plan, which is another reason we don't need it, us to spend $100,000 on a city plan. And Catherine's leading that up in her team, and that will include Berkeley, Dorchester, and Charleston. You can see like part of the zoning code. How do we encourage sustainable construction? This is an important part of the zoning code. How do we take the wins from the Upper Peninsula District and carry those over to Sam Ritt and create incentive-based districts other places? Let's see. Right now we're trying to pursue lead and follow Charleston Rise's kind of best practices, but we don't have a policy in place. So it's sort of like, if we can, we can, but we do our best. I don't know, Mayor, do you know if there's solar on the new fire station on Johns Island? I know that was something that was talked about for a long time.
I don't.
Okay.
No, they nixed that.
They nix it?
Yeah.
Okay, bummer. So I know they've been trying. So that's sort of a piece that we need to figure out. How do we make that happen? How do we lead by example? And how do we capture those benefits of renewable energy? There's tax credits that will pay for that for us, especially on affordable housing. How do we figure that out? Talked about that. Green Business Challenge, the Charleston Climate Coalition is still working on that, so we appreciate that partnership. Utility stuff's all in this building code grant. Feasibility of renewable energy can be in that grant, but like I said, it's going to take so long. We're not going to have that done by 2026 if we use the grant funding to do that. You know, it could be worth, I know we're struggling with office space, and there's a lot of places that, you know, have figured out how to coordinate their telecommuting policy so they need less office space. That could be something, you know, shared offices, shared desks, things like that. It's something I know Tracy brought up a long time ago that I'm sure the mayor has thought about and may revisit. We talked about the EV charging infrastructure, pretty exciting. Conservation grant for a fleet transition plan.
Is this document on the website?
Yep. Right sizing parking codes. So right now, as I think many of you know, our parking codes have minimums, not maximums, and typically developers will actually put more parking than is required. So how do we put maximums? How do we get rid of parking? Peninsula, you know, in the future, planning in the future. We work on transit. And we do a parking in lieu fund that would help pay for some parking. People pedal plan. Mayor, sorry to put you on the spot again. Is funding for the, I'll let you talk about that later in your update. Wayfinding, we know we're going to need wayfinding for the low line. Maybe there's a way that could, you know, we could leverage that for the whole peninsula and the whole city and utilize that same design. Plastic code's going really well. We presented data that closing that extra thick plastic bag loophole really, really helped. We had a great H-frame sign recycling program after the election, thanks to Molly and our planning department. And then we've done a ton of, you know, composting and recycling and at our farmers markets. Let's see. But then the next big focus here is, you know, how do we revitalize and improve it? Tree plantings, so this will be a big part of the zoning code rewrite. How do we update tree protection guidelines? It's kind of silly that we protect a tree just because of the size of it. You know, we did some research that showed a grand tree is great, but if it's not at the right elevation and needs to have a fence put around it because it's not at the right elevation, it's going to die anyway. We witnessed this. So how can we, you know, work with developers to maybe that grand tree doesn't work. Maybe it doesn't work in that place. what can we do to offset it that works better for everyone? Because there's no point in protecting a tree that is going to die anyway a few years down the road, right? So there's things like that. There's also things like protecting other trees, protecting smaller trees, protecting different varieties, roots of trees. So right now we just chop down every pine tree because they fell in Hurricane Hugo. That's why that's in that code. But pine trees actually, when they are together in a grove, they support each other. So how do we keep them together instead of just one pine tree? And then, so there's a lot on tree protection that I think could really help both developers and our climate. All right, and that's pretty much it. So just a reminder at the end of the climate action plan, and here, this is more updated, is just a checklist. You can put this on your fridge, you can click on it and it will take you everywhere. And it has everything that if you're looking for a way to contribute, every little bit adds up to make a really big impact. I encourage you to check out this list, find one thing that interests you and focus on it. And with that, turn it over.
Before Kayla, may I make a comment, please?
Sure.
Since Katie just gave a report, as a member of this committee from almost the beginning, I personally, I think most of you all here want to wish Katie the best and thank her. I remember the end of 2019, we started to talk about creating a climate action plan for the city, and at that point, no one in the state had a climate action plan. And in early of 2020, we were able to conduct a greenhouse gas emission study, and then so we had COVID. And we all looked and said, what can we do? Well, Katie came up with all of us that were bored during COVID. We spent 90 minutes, sometimes once, sometimes twice on a Zoom every single week throughout the entire fall in creating the climate action plan, which also involved members of the city council and everybody. And we finalized it, brought it back to this committee, brought it to the city council, and in May of 2021, we were the first municipality in the entire state, probably in the Southeast, to come up with a viable climate action plan that was realistic, that we knew where the resources were coming from. Every time someone came up with an action part of that plan, we asked, does the city have the right and the feasibility to be able to do that? And the answer was yes, otherwise it was not the plan. So on behalf of everyone, thank you, Ms. Katie, for all that you've done.
Jennifer, I swear, everyone else. Thank you all.
Excellent.
Well, thank you, Katie. We've got some shoes to fill for this committee moving forward. I'm Caitlin Casella. I'm the Director of Resiliency here at the city. I think some folks have seen me around here a bit, but you'll be seeing me more at this committee. I will go pretty briefly through my updates because I know the mayor's got a time crunch and he has some really important topics to update y'all on that also relate to resilience projects. This slide, there's more on it, got cut off. That's how jam-packed we are here at Resilience. So I'll go over this quickly, but I'm going to highlight some of our key resilience projects we're working on here at the city of Charleston. And I'll dive a little deeper detail in some slides on some of these things we're talking about. But one of our really key things we've been working on through resilience is our partnership with the Army Corps of Engineers. And why is that an important partnership? Because they are the federal folks that bring a lot of dollars to a lot of these resilience projects, which are, as most of us know, are larger scale adaptation projects that are over a longer period of time, and they cost buku bucks, right? So we have our resources for funding, we can go to the county and state, but when you're talking into the billions and your zeros are getting up there, it's really helpful to have federal funding. So we've had a really good partnership with the Army Corps of Engineers over the years. One of our key projects is the battery extension, and that is really on the Charleston Peninsula, and that's helping us look to protect the peninsula and our economic assets from storm surge, but also our creeping tidal flooding that we're seeing more and more common as well. We also have, last year we kicked off a tidal and inland flooding study, and that actually encompasses the entirety of the city of Charleston. So not just the peninsula. And I'll get a little more detail into these projects as well. And what's really critical about these projects, again, they're 65% federal cost share. So that's a lot of money when you're thinking of $1 billion project, right? Really no exciting news to announce today. We just received 2 weeks ago, news that we got over $7 million for 2 city stormwater projects from the Army Corps of Engineers. Woo! Yeah, it's so exciting. We've been sort of pushing for that and we got it. So they're helping us with our stormwater as well, brick arches, as well, a project that's ongoing out in the DuPont Wapu Basin out in West Ashley. And y'all have been updated on the water plan that was released in August. I just wanted to do a touch point of how we've been utilizing it in the city and some things to kind of see moving forward. Really, since even before it was released in August, the water plan has been helping the guiding and scoping of the Army Corps of our Tidal and Inland project. Y'all have gone through the really dense and information forward story map. There's kind of 8 large scale long-term pilot projects. A lot of that stuff and a lot of the data collected, the Corps is using that. So it's already being used before even it was released. We've also talked, I think, before y'all about the Basin Flood Action Program, which was helped informed and guided by the water plan. This is the city's communication tool for residents to help understand what's going on with water in their basin. So we want folks to start thinking like no longer what's happening on flooding on my street, on my council district, in my neighborhood, because if nothing, the water plan has taught us water knows no boundaries. So we need to start thinking broader. So the water plan developed 16 basins. And so the Basin Flood Action Program is a really cool communicative tool for residents to go on, click their neighborhood, they'll see their basin. There's ongoing stormwater projects, water plan projects, maintenance information. And what's really exciting with update of the Basin Flood Action Program is that we have GIS right now working on an interactive map for folks to really easily access this information and pull up their basin maps. So stay tuned, that should be coming out hopefully within the next couple of weeks. And then also with the water plan, really excited. We're in a program with the Harvard Bloomberg Collaborative Track. It's a free program for the city, really helpful. And one of the benefits of that is we get a fellow and they are coming to us this summer. We are picking applicants now and they're basically, if you've gone to the one end of the water plan, there's a whole chart of recommendations from not just the projects, but policies and strategies for the city to work on. And so we've really tooled this applicant to be working on a communication strategy from a website development, et cetera, and also helping hone in our data collection for residents to access and the city to utilize as well. So we're really excited about that. And this also relates to the Basin Flood Action Program. Stay tuned. And in May, we will be doing a roadshow of sort of what we are deeming a water open house for residents in each area of the city. And we'll be inviting community partners to participate as well. It's really more of a resource fair for folks to come and learn what's happening with water in the city of Charleston. And it did get cut off, but I do want to mention next week on City Council, a long project in development has finally come fruition in Equity First with water management. We are going to be funding a Rosemont and Bridgeview community flooding mitigation plan. And we were doing that in partnership with the community of Rosemont and Bridgeview. And they've received some NIPWA funding to contribute as well. So stay tuned on some, and we're kind of hoping that can be a pilot of how we do some of these equity-based resilience planning throughout the city of Charleston. Really quickly, some just little refresher of what the battery extension is, because we did last fall, we kicked off the city is funding some initial design work for the first phase of that project. Because really, if you did, I'm sorry you did, but if you spent time reading the 1,000 pages of the feasibility report, it's very dense. There's just a line on the map that the Corps presented that they said, yes, this is feasible. Some issues with it from, an alignment perspective and how folks and residents would interact with it. So we're working on honing in a really preferred alignment for the city to really bring forth that a design goal of extending that battery, but really having that multi-benefit of a public amenity that people recognize and utilize with the battery. So we've kicked off that work, but just a reminder of what this project is. It's an 8-mile storm surge structure, but we are also utilizing that tidal and inland flood risk management study with the Corps to help it also integrate stormwater management. Because why are we going to build this structure and it not be multi-beneficial, right? That's just silly. We want to utilize it for helping with our creeping tides, as well as our increased stormwater issues we're dealing with. Already sort of talked about the design goal, but that first side that we're working on now is the west side. There's a lot of really important, exciting projects also happening there, from the Ashley River crossing, Ashley River walk. So we're working on how everything's going to be integrated. So it can, again, be a flood protection structure, but this now new connectivity network for the entire peninsula as well. And just our timeline of where we're at, the study kicked off in 2018. We've had a chief's report, which kind of boring terms, but that actually means like, you get your funding for Congress when you ask for it, which is good. We are still negotiating a final design agreement, but again, the work that the city is funding right now is to give us that confidence that when we move forward with funding with the Corps, that they are utilizing the design and the alignment that we would like for this project. So hopefully we should be getting underway with the Corps work with that, maybe by the summer, if we are at a comfortable place with where they're with our design and alignment, and then we could hopefully be kicking off some construction within a few years' time. And just a few little notes on the tidal and inland study. This right now, it's a 6-year timeline just because the scope of, you think of the geographical area of Charleston is quite large to study. Right now, we are hyper-focused on James Island, West Ashley, and the peninsula, because as the water plan has guided and informed us, those are our most near-term flood risk areas. So they are, and what's really exciting too, is this is really looking at nature-based solutions, which I think most people, when they think of Army Corps of Engineer, they don't think of nature-based solutions, but they're progressing, we're progressing with them. And what's really exciting is they're actually going to allow the city to lead on working and finding those solutions. So we are, and we talked to other cities working with the Corps, and they're like, what are you guys doing? How are you guys making all this progress with them? And it's like, well, we're just pushing them and telling them how we want to lead on this. So exciting updates to come with that. You'll probably see they'll be partners with us on some public education, and they can speak more about this in the spring. And then just really quickly, most people you talk to, they're like, oh, Corps won't do stormwater projects. Well, they will if you help identify the special account, and we did. And we have $25 million that has been authorized for the city of Charleston to tap into for stormwater projects. It's highly competitive. You think of all the congressional districts across the United States, they're all also trying to tap into this. So that we have the 2 projects that I just talked about, and now these stormwater projects is really good for Charleston. Again, really super competitive. So we have, I think most folks are familiar with our brick arches, historic sewage system under the peninsula. The city has started restoring them, but it's a really tedious, expensive process. This is going to be funding to keep progressing that forward, which, we're talking about this entire integration of our stormwater network with our peninsula edge is really going to help build that strong system on the peninsula. And then there's an ongoing project that the city has been involved in with the county out in the DuPont-Wapu watershed out in West Ashley. It's obviously kind of that key transportation corridor where 526 comes off, a lot of development, commercial and residential. So helping to alleviate flooding in that area, which will be really critical. And then again, just an update, kind of went over it, but the Basin Flood Action Program, there's the link to it. We're hoping to have that interactive map live. And then associated with that, we're also very excited that next month we will be kicking off this new iteration of a flooding committee for the city of Charleston, the Basin Flood Action Committee. And I see a few members here. So thank you for also being involved in multiple committees. And we're looking forward. That's really going to be honing in on, near-term stormwater solutions, projects, maintenance schedules, but also like embedding how we're looking through the water plan and longer term as well. So
Can I just get a question?
those are my updates.
on?
Yes, of course.
If you go back one slide, can you tell us, not that far, can you tell us what the green and the yellow represents?
So this is a map right here. We had our GIS folks, the mayor was like, people don't understand maybe like broadly where folks are experiencing flooding and why maybe some city resources have been concentrated there. And so we took our GIS folks, took an input of all data from citizens, and that kind of is the hotspot of where we heard from flooding.
So the darker, the
Yes.
hotter?
Yes,
Okay.
so as you can see, obviously, and I think this goes back to, what we're focusing on right now with the Army Corps, West Ashley Peninsula and James Island.
Right.
Clearly, that's where also we're seeing a lot of the issues.
Of course.
So
Alright.
that's what that map is, but our basin maps, there's also a link right now to the PDF, so you could pull up your basin right now. It is friendly. It's on a PDF. You have to scroll, but what we're hoping to do is have an interactive, sort of like Katie's composting map where you can like click on a link and then.
Great, thanks. Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah. Well, I know, Mayor, you wanted to say some important updates as well. So I will hand it over to you.
Sure. Well, thank you. And Stuart, you kind of beat me to the punch on thanking Katie for all of her commitment and service to the city. We wish you all the best in your future endeavors, and members gaining a real advocate for the environment. So again, thank you for all your efforts for the city. So give her another. And we have some people we have people here online that have questions, or no?
I think there's a public comment period after, and a couple people have submitted comments.
Have submitted
And
comments,
there's
okay.
does anyone here want to be heard during the public comment period?
Okay, why don't we do a brief, kind of give you an update on where things stand, because it relates a lot of what we're talking about. And let me preface all this by saying this is very much a work in progress, but the reason why there's some urgency, I'll get to here in a minute, but just kind of setting the playing field, if you will. When the half-cent sales tax failed in November, that was kind of a watershed moment for me personally in terms of regional planning. And I'll tell you that I supported it because we need infrastructure, right? We need infrastructure for a variety of things: greenbelt, obviously roads, resiliency measures, you name it. So, but it failed, and it failed miserably. And the silver lining, I'll tell you, is that now it's kind of a blank slate, and it could potentially raise $6 billion. And we have a lot of really critical initiatives that frankly we're way behind on from a public sector standpoint, that require significant funding. So it's fun to just dream about these ideas and talk about them. If you don't have a funding source, a realistic funding source, you're talking about it. And that becomes very frustrating. And so where we are right now with the failure of the half-cent sales tax is we are now working, City of Charleston is working with Charleston County, and we are both very much on the same page about updating, first and foremost, traffic analysis, which we're working with the COG on to update models, many of which haven't been updated in 7 or 8 years in terms of where commutes are happening, and it's just dated information. So you start with that information, and it's math. It shows you where the throughputs are. And then what that does is it starts to help inform the city, and city's going through a zoning rewrite right now. So knowing where capacity is in terms of traffic, both now and in the future, is an important thing to meld together, right? Because they'll inform one another. And the more we started thinking about it at staff level, and this is through the input of a lot of people that have been working very hard across the city, we've all kind of come together on this initiative, which we're calling CR26, because we don't have anything else to call it right now. Charleston Region 26. And the effort is to bring all of these different very critical initiatives, like our traffic analysis, like our resiliency needs that Kaylin just spoke to, like the climate action plan, like affordable housing. All of these things inform one another and really impact one another and need to be thought about holistically. And the good news is there's been a ton of work over the years. There are countless plans that have been kind of merged together that are resulting in an initiative that we're trying to put in digestible format for residents, so that when we ask them in 2026 to think again on the transportation sales tax, that they know where their money will go. They know what road improvements will happen. They know what resiliency efforts it will go to fund. And it is specifically laid out. So we have about a year to get really organized on this. and let our constituents know that we've heard them and we are addressing this stuff. And here's the funding mechanism that is best suited to address them. So again, this is very much a work in progress. The great news is that unlike in previous generations, this isn't casting the blame at anybody, but the county has not always gotten along with the city. And the city's not always gotten along with North Charleston. And North Charleston's not always gotten along with Mount Pleasant. You know, there's just been a lot of sandboxes that has not helped us coalesce behind a common vision for our region when it comes to these things. As is pointed out, a lot of these efforts do not have geographic boundaries. So we have to work collectively together. And this, to me, gives us a very once in a generation opportunity to do just that. So again, this is a work in progress. We are partnering with the COG. We're obviously partnering with the county, the other municipalities. Everybody's signed on to the concept, but a ton of work is left to be done to make sure all of these different efforts are incorporated in. And then it's going to be a sales pitch. It's going to be a roadshow. We're going to go out and take this to the public and get everybody informed. And the reason I'm bringing this up to you all is because when it's done, I'm going to give the hard sell on everyone in this room to make sure you engage your constituencies and bring them on board, or bring them into the circle to give us advice on how to tweak it so that they can become on board. So this has to be a unified effort or it will fail. Or it'll just be another plan that's put on the shelf, which I have zero interest in being part of. So I wanted to just give you the general concept of this. It is very much a work in progress, but I'm extremely optimistic by the progress that we've made thus far since November, and working with the other government entities and working internally within our own staff, that I'm optimistic this can really happen. And I think it will be incredibly transformational. So that's the general update I wanted to give you all, and happy to answer now any questions that you might have or anybody that may be online. Yes.
Who are we?
Who are we?
Who are we? Who are we, the people in the room that are having the conversations? Did you just mention the staff and the elected officials and others? I mean,
so it's the chairman of county council.
Yeah, yeah.
It is his staff. It is our entire planning staff, our resiliency staff, our sustainability staff. Or I mean, just you name it.
Okay.
This is touching everybody.
All right, good. Okay.
I've met with Mayor Burgess. I've met with Mayor Haney. I've met with Mayor Touchberry on this. All of these things are kind of coming together, and people are sharing this vision.
That's good.
And it can be adapted. I mean, it's not anything that's being set in stone, mind you. But I think it'll be a specific enough direction where people will know, again, what they're voting for and where their money's going to go.
Thank you.
So are you saying that the action plan could be partially implemented through this?
Absolutely. I mean, again, it's so a few nuances that are important to point out. The half-cent sales tax could raise about $5.5 billion based on the most recent estimate. And I do think even though we lost the money for 526 and now that 526 is dead, I'll say that again, it's dead. It is not coming back. It is dead. That we probably over the next 20 years, which is what that period of time that sales tax would allocate, the $5.5 billion, I'll get at least 500 million from the state. So I'm using a round number of $6 billion. And if you look at the Charleston County's 22 road projects, which is the primary purpose of a transportation sales tax, there are 22 outside of 526 that are kind of evenly distributed between Charleston, North Charleston, and Mount Pleasant, which is important politically. It can't all go to one municipality or another. It won't get approved. So you got to ground it in reality. But those 22 projects would equate to about $2.5 billion. So that leaves $3.5 billion for other things. And it's usually much more heavy transportation. But if you have that kind of money and you're able to look at our zoning rewrite, for example, and say, we have low-lying areas that are entitled, that have been entitled for 30 years. And we can't go in and just downzone them without getting sued, because we will. And then we'll fight a lawsuit, and it'll take 20 years, and we'll probably lose based on South Carolina statute for taking. But what you can do is you can go in and say, you know what, we don't want to build there. And we now have greenbelt funds that we can offer you to buy down your density or buy out your property. And that affects what the traffic models show, right? If you're not developing that area anymore, then that'll impact your math. Same thing when you talk about resiliency initiatives, right? These are efforts that we desperately need. I mean, we desperately need, but we don't have a defined local source for matching. And the city of Charleston cannot do it by itself, I can assure you. And so this provides an opportunity for that local match that could be significant. And then another example, this is something that is not currently allowed by state statute for a transportation sales tax, but we've just filed a bill in the House and the Senate that will take the same tax legislation or language and TIF legislation that allows for workforce housing to be a qualifying expenditure and changing the law at the state level, which I got Democrats and Republicans agreeing to right now. So I think that'll pass this session. And if that happens, and you can put workforce housing into this mix, along with public transportation, which is already a huge component of it, you're really talking about making a significant difference in how we build for our next generation. So again, a lot of moving parts on this. And when it comes together, which it will, we need y'all's support. We need y'all's backing. I mean, and we need your input. I mean, I'm telling you this now because it is very much a work in progress. But I want to kind of give you kind of the lay of the land so that you all can get organized within your respective groups to help us. What else we got? Yes, sir.
Charlton Brown with Charleston Climate Coalition. What projects do you think are most likely to make it into this referendum at this point? And
well, the 22 prioritized projects traffic wise. And then I think when it comes to affordable housing locations, resiliency needs, and the like, I think in my mind, and again, this is a lot of open discussion that would need to be happening here. It would in essence be broken somewhat down on a pro rata basis based on population. And then I would say the cities need to present to both the county and their constituents, where they would fund the balance of the money, right? Because North Charleston may have more affordable housing or want to spend more on affordable housing than resiliency because a lot of higher ground is there. We may need more money for resiliency, right? So you can't just have a one size fits all when there are different needs in different areas. So a lot of these things that are shovel ready, or if you're going to be able to, like I would take, for example, the battery extension and the PFAP initiatives and the Wapu drainage basin, for example, those are already pretty baked. So I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel, and they're overdue, they need money. So like that would be, at least in my mind, a priority for us to put in there. And we're leveraging our local investment by getting 65% federal funding for it. So it's a smart move. Right. So that's how we would prioritize it in my mind right now, but it's going to be a group discussion within staff, certainly within the community and council as well. Yes, sir.
I have a sort of looking at future beyond next year.
Right.
Do you anticipate that, or would you want to see this beautiful relationship among the municipalities somehow be I don't want to say formalize, formalize is a good word, I'll say, instead of put in law or anything like that. I mean, is this something that really could end up being a
Meaning us
mechanism for
merged
deci-
together or something like
a
that?
mechanism for decision-making in the future, yes.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. I mean, I believe pretty strongly in home rule
Of course.
and making sure, I don't want to take over North Charleston or, but or them to take over us.
What happens there?
but
affects us
look,
backward.
I mean, what's an incumbent on us as elected officials to show is that we can work together.
Oh,
I mean, I can't tell you, I mean, I got yelled at this morning about at my coffee with the mayor because a DOT road. And I can't be like, well, sorry, that's DOT, that's state. You got to go call them. Because that just makes people more pissed off, right? So the reality of it is being able to demonstrate how we can work together, and we can. I mean, again, I get along with these other mayors really well. I get along with the previous chair of county council and the current chair of county council, and they're very different. Because we're talking about things that impact people's day-to-day lives that aren't political, they're just common sense.
This is a wonderful development.
Yeah, no, I think I'm that's what I say. I'm pretty excited about it. Yes, ma'am.
Leah Colabello, Town of Mount Pleasant Green Commission.
Mhm.
That's how I'm going to ask this question in that capacity.
Sure.
In your conversations, are you speaking about mass transit?
Yes,
Light
absolutely.
rail, possibly?
Not light rail, but BRT is very much a component of it. I mean, there's $650 billion that a lot of that funding, $650 million for the local component for the BRT, which is a huge initiative. And I think is long overdue. And frankly, the sales tax was going to be a huge funding component of that, which is now, until it passes, has kind of been in jeopardy. But public transportation, we absolutely need to be more aggressive on. And public transportation informs where road improvements should go. I mean, if you can't plan a road without thinking about future public transportation because it impacts it, right? I mean, the traffic calculations on those 22, I keep pointing at the cog, sorry, but the traffic calculations on the 22 road projects are different if you assume no public transportation or no new improvements. So you have to have those as part of the math. And I think you have to be very transparent with people on the math. And I'll just give a little bit of a spoiler is that when they do the math, most of our roads are going to fail, even with the improvements. I mean, that's just a reality about how much we're growing. And so then it becomes incumbent on the municipalities to bring in land use, bring in other opportunities to adjust those growth projections. And there's no perfect science, but there is science behind it. And that's, I think, important to, again, be very open and transparent with both of them.
Are
Yes,
you
ma'am.
able to comment why light rail wouldn't be?
It's too expensive.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm Catherine Bash. I'm the planning director at the COG, and I was the project manager when we decided to do BRT versus light rail. And there were a couple of things. One, light rail was 3.2 billion versus the BRT at that time was like in the millions. And BRT attracts about 80% of the same ridership that light rail attracts. So spending that money, that much more money just to attract 20% more didn't make any sense. But also the main factor that we had was resilience, because of if you put the light rails in the ground and we have a flooding incident, the light rail has to stop. BRT is really light rail on rubber tires. So we have the ability to deviate from the guideway, is what it's called, if there is a flooding incident that would impact.
Thank you.
Sir, so there was a science behind
Yeah.
how we came to that conclusion. So,
Appreciate that.
but it does, I mean, if you go to other cities and see, it operates exactly like light rail. It's just a matter of that you don't have the railings down in the ground versus you have them on tires, and they're electric vehicles. So
I got about 5 more minutes. Yes, sir.
Hi, Greg Gowder, Carolina Ocean Line, just a continuation of these transit options. We're going to have no shortage of navigable waterways and
Yeah,
greater
yeah.
partnerships between these different municipalities. Could we see an expansion and a formalized funding mechanism to bring back the ferries that used to connect all of the communities around Charleston Harbor and up our
Yeah, I love ferry idea. I think it makes a ton of sense. I'm no expert in it. I've met with the two private ferry companies that are out there now. We need facilities for it. I mean, we have some with the, on the peninsula, but we would need to be looking at other parts in terms of the public realm versus lease space that the ferries use. So to me, it is a logical next step, but can I give you a specific route or plan for it? Not right now, but just know you have a real advocate in me on that concept. So in the back there, well, you were late, so maybe go. then I'll come to you. All right.
I just, being on the committee, I want to see the climate action plan move forward. So if we're gonna do another one, how are we gonna do that? And it sounds like we really want it to tie into the CR 20.
Yes. I just think it would be helpful because again, what I think Katie could echo here, a lot of what these initiatives require is money. And so, and the city can do some and we can get grants for a lot, but in terms of big moves, it's going to require significant funding and we have limits. And, the county has limits without this particular allocation. So I can't say it'll pay for everything in the climate action plan. It won't, but I think it'll make a lot more impact than if we don't go. And I think it'll also, in fairness, help sell the initiative because this is something a lot of people, as you all well aware, care deeply about. And so the way I like to say is it's kind of there's something for everybody. That's what I said when we go out and do these talks. I mean, some people only care about traffic and they don't care about anything else. So if you can go into a meeting with 200 people and you can talk about, you have an answer, a legitimate answer for resiliency. You have a legitimate answer for traffic. You have a legitimate answer for affordability. You have a legitimate answer for climate action. That's a powerful message. That is a unifying message that everybody, I think, can get behind. And I, again, know this goes without saying, but you're not going to get 100% of what you want. But the reality of it is you're going to get a lot of what your goals are if we work together. All right. Yes, sir. And then I got one more.
I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot, but do you have any succession plans to maintain the continuity of this committee that we're losing, Katie? That you can share at this point.
Not specifically, but we have a plan that needs to finalize through HR. I will tell you that it is going to stay alive. It is going to pick up on the great foundation and initiatives that Katie's addressed, and it's going to, I think, continue to grow. So I have my commitment to keep that going, and I'm excited by it. I think there's gonna be some real exciting news too on the next moves there. Yes, sir.
Bill Millsoff, Charleston Climate Coalition. I want to echo Marlo's comments up there about the sustainability department. I think having a one-person staff has been tricky for a while, just with all the different moving pieces in communication, project management, internal work. I think that would be a great priority. And a question for you on the zoning code rewrite is, I guess, to what degree is the city trying to push climate action plan wins and green building incentives, et cetera, through the zoning code rewrite?
I mean, the zoning code rewrite will certainly look to incorporate the latest in terms of initiatives for green construction and green initiatives. I want to be thoughtful about it, though. I mean, I don't want it to be, and don't take this the wrong way, but I want no gimmick on this. I don't want to just say, throw something out there to make it look like we're doing something and is to, have something to talk about. I'm going to give you an example. I love and I believe strongly in solar panels, but if I had a priority between a solar panel and a more sustainable building envelope, I'm going building envelope. Because it's going to last a hell of a lot longer than the technology of that particular panel. So those are that's my mindset on it. I really want to look at all of this, not just 10 years or 20 years down the road, but 50 to 100 years down the road. And that's, again, pretty essential to my DNA when we look at planning. And I think it's our responsibility as elected officials to make sure we look that way. So, all right, one more and then I gotta go.
Mayor, I'm David Quick, Chairman of the Mount Pleasant Green Commission, serve with Leah over here, and I appreciate your acknowledgement of working with the community. I mean, boundaries are human-made. We're working in a very natural environment. And I want to tell you that both Katie and this committee has served as a major influence on the creation of the Green Commission, on similar boards on Isle of Palms, a great sustainability director on Sullivan's Island. This body's reach has had incredible influence. And I really hope that you will continue the legacy that Katie has left here with us, and that you'll continue to work on that. And as far as getting the next tax referendum passed, as you know, Mount Pleasant, East Cooper solidly against this tax because of the 526 component of it. Yeah. And if we do bring in, people care about the environment, people care about conservation. That's why we live here.
Right.
And so we really need to protect it. And so I really encourage bringing more people to the table from across the area. I know that we're eager to serve with the city of Charleston. And I just wanted to say kudos to Katie. Yeah. Somebody had mentioned earlier about not hiring consultants, and this was an organic process to come up with this climate coalition plan. I was a climate ambassador, and there were a lot of climate ambassadors, and it's a very organic plan. So what you all have is created by the people.
Yeah.
And that's the way it should be.
Absolutely.
Not some consultant that doesn't know what pluff mud is.
That's right.
Literally.
I love it.
They did not know what pluff mud is. It was like, oh,
Really annoyed me.
it's credited right there. Thank you for your acknowledgement. Thank you to this committee. Your influence, you may not realize it, has been far and wide, well beyond your borders.
Yeah. Again, one more round of applause for Kate. Got my commitment. I think this is a very impactful group, and could be needs to be very influential on what we're looking at here from a region. And then and I just reiterate that we as a community, all of your constituents, it's not just City of North Charleston, City of Charleston, Town of Mount Pleasant, but your advocacy groups, we got to be organized. We got to be very organized. And again, you have to come to the table with the understanding that this is a broader vision for all. And what you may be fully passionate about might not be shared by everybody, but in this scenario, there's a lot to go around. So we cannot let perfection be the enemy of good to make meaningful strides forward for our future. So excited to continue working with everybody. And I'm super late to meet with two of my council members. So I got to dart out of here. But thanks, guys, for everything. And I will see you at the next meeting.
Thank you. We are still in the public comment if anyone has any other comments. I do.
Can I just stay here?
Yeah.
Okay, super important. Well, hi, everybody. My name is Leah Colabello, and it's been a while, but I am a City of Charleston climate ambassador. That's awesome. So thanks, David, because it's been a bit since I've got to play that card. I am also a business owner. I own Planet Purpose Solutions. It's a business based here at Charleston, 472 Meeting Street. I work with organizations from 50 million up to over $1 billion on their sustainability strategies here in the US, as well as over in Europe. I also am a member of the Green Commission of the Town of Mount Pleasant, and I teach social entrepreneurship as an adjunct professor at the College of Charleston. And so I think we agree that Charleston is a jewel, and everyone in the room today has worked very hard to make it so. Sustainability and resilience considerations are key factors for success in shaping Charleston's future. And Katie McCain, as the city's director of sustainability, has been immensely effective in shepherding the creation of programs and policies, most especially the Charleston Climate Action Plan, through thoughtful and inclusive processes. These activities and initiatives have resulted in policies, programs, and practices that are considered to be excellent examples of civic leadership. So much so that municipalities, as David has said, municipalities really from across the country, not just the Low Country, have looked to what you have put together as models for their own sustainability and resilience activities. So I'd like to thank you, Katie, for your service in advancing sustainability at the City of Charleston for current and future citizens, visitors, and businesses to benefit from. So noting this, as we sadly say goodbye to Katie as she embarks on a new adventure, we look forward to the future of what our city will decide to do. So sustainability and economic competitiveness are linked together. And sometimes I fear that this crucial intersection may be lost in the noise of day-to-day governance. The city has very little room for error when it comes to making decisions around sustainability and resilience. These are very long-term topics, and decisions today set up pain or prosperity for the future. With this said, I hope that the City of Charleston will cast a wide net when you are looking to replace the Director of Sustainability in this position. There is a lot of sustainability knowledge out there in the past 10 years, and many of them have been trained at the College of Charleston, indeed not around the world. Sustainability is now a degree, a master's program, right? There are a lot of experts out there around the world. So it's critical that this future hire be a subject matter expert in sustainability and have experience with policy development, transportation, business, and economics, which is crucial when you're creating a future program that is looking down the road 20 years out. This is science. This all sounds like a tall order, but our jewel of a city deserves nothing less than to accelerate the momentum that Katie and the citizens and leaders of Charleston, past and present, have begun. Thank you. And thank you, Katie.
Would anyone else like, or Stuart, you're the vice chair. Take over.
Any other comments?
Anyone online? I just want to let everyone know that the Sierra Club and Groundswell is a local organization in one of the neighborhoods downtown. We're working together to put on a water plan forum, and that's going to be March 6th at the College of Charleston at the Rita Science Center. And we'd like to probably going to have Jared Bramlett speak to that. Some folks from the city are going to be there talking as well. So please come out for that. Please help us get the word out for that. We will have more information about that very soon, and we'll distribute it to everyone as soon as we can.
Thank you, Chris. Anybody else?
Oh, that'd be a great picture.
Seeing that, it's time to adjourn. Thank you all for being with us.
Thank you everyone for all your support.
Thanks, Katie.
No.